3 whole meals, 1 simple recipe to really spice up your quarantine meals. To spice up 3 meals. This is delicious. So for today, I thought, because of the circumstances, starting every meal from scratch is just so f***ing exhausting that I thought I'd challenge myself to make 1 recipe that's extremely simple, 2-step recipe. And that from there, we're gonna build 3 meals, if you will. For the breakfasty one, is gonna be a toast with scrambled eggs. The second one is gonna be bean stew. And the third one is gonna be a pasta. The only thing you're gonna need for that simple recipe, let's call it the kale puree. It's just gonna be 2 bunches of kale. Any kale that you find out there is good. And half a head of garlic. Also, because of, it's kind of scary to eat our greens raw. So that's the reason why we're going to cook them, boil them for quite some time to make sure they're nice and safe to eat. So we'll just start off with washing your kale. So now that your 2 bunches of kale are washed, ready to be boiled. And now, this guy here, we're gonna put some salt. But the salt for that, you can be pretty liberal. I think that's good. How much is that? 15 pinches of salt. Let's bring it back up to a boil. So in that boiling water, I'm gonna put the kale, all of it. And in addition to that, I have 7 cloves of garlic. That's gonna go in there. And we're gonna boil that, a rolling boil, for probably 5 minutes until the kale is probably 4 shades darker. It was more like 7 minutes of cooking. So once it's cooked, we're just gonna scoop it out. You don't need to drain all the water. You just wanna get as much excess as possible. All that in my blender. What would have been a really good idea is just strain that in a strainer in the sink. That would have really worked out pretty well for me. So everything's in here, straight to the blender. It's not gonna need any salt because we did all the seasoning in the water. Just gonna need to add some oil. And we're gonna blend it with whichever blending device you have. So this puree here is ready to be used. And it's got this amazing color. Let's taste it. It's just very delicious, kale forward. You don't want to put any acid in there because it's just going to turn darker. And then from there, let's start on building our 3 exciting meals. So first off, let's do 1 nice thick slice of sourdough, but you can use any bread you have. Going in the toaster. I'm just going to do 3 eggs. And you can do that as your toast is toasting. A little bit of salt. Perfect. So when your toast happen to be ready, scrambled egg takes 30 seconds to make, so I'm gonna get everything ready before. So I'm gonna smear some of that on my very airy bread. For this guy, hot pan, butter, and let's scramble some eggs. Alright, eggs are scrambled. It's gonna go right on our toast. It's just gonna get topped off with a little bit of salt, some black pepper. And I have these beautiful fermented ramps, like this. And here's breakfast. I think a fried egg would be delicious on there. Scrambled egg is a personal favorite. Also, anything you have on top, something spicy, something lemony, something garlicky would be all really delicious on there. And make it your own. I think as a base, it's just an idea and just interpret it whichever way you want. So for the second dish, using that kale puree, we're gonna go and make something a bit more lunchy. I happen to have some old beans in the fridge, but any legumes, like any chickpeas or anything like that would work. I'm gonna make a little stewy bean, as everyone loves on the internet right now. Not too soupy, just a little liquid will do. So first, this here, when you're trying to make a stewy bean thing, you can smash a couple beans. It's gonna help and be a lot easier to emulsify with the broth. And also, to help out, make it nice and creamy, some oil in there. So it's been about 5 minutes that it's boiling and it's turned really nice and creamy. I'm just gonna taste it, finish up with some lemon juice, and we're ready to plate for that. Put a nice dollop of this really vibrant green puree on top. I happen to have some fermented chilies that I keep in oil, and I can just do just a little drizzle of that, spice it up.
If they don't have fermented chilies, what can they use?
If you don't have any fermented chilies, just some chili flakes on top would be really delicious, or any other type of like hot sauce. And that's our really lovely, hearty meal. I know you're just gonna say this is a bowl of beans with a dollop of kale puree, but it is so delicious. If you use any beans, make it nice and creamy, fresh it up with some lemon juice, and top that on top. The heartiness of the kale, I mean, this looks like nothing, but is spectacular and such an affordable meal to make. On to our third meal, which is going to be the pasta dinner. I have some water up to a boil, cooked pasta, season your water, yeah, great. Cook those penne, whichever noodles you have, until they're cooked. As that's cooking, all I'm gonna do is crack open a can of artichokes to remind us that spring is here. Can't feel it, but spring is here. Give it just a cool rinse. I'm just gonna chop up, basically to be like the same size as the pasta. I have some preserved lemons that we did at home here. It's gonna go really well with that pesto. It's a really good way to add something super interesting to like what used to feel like a Tuesday night pasta. If you have any preserved lemons on hand, you can just use a squeeze of fresh lemon. It's gonna do just as good to you. I'm only gonna use the peel. I'm just gonna julienne. And that, I'm not gonna cook it at all. I'm just gonna serve it on top. Pasta's done. Strain it. And back in that pot. All it's gonna take is a nice spoonful of the pesto. We're going to add some of our artichokes. So when you make pasta like this, you always want the sauce to be a little bit looser than what you think is gonna be good. I'm gonna add a splash of water. I know some people like do the whole use the pasta water. You can do that if that floats your boat. And oil. Some olive oil is also gonna make it nice and luscious. So we're ready for plating. Some preserved lemon. Parmesan, and some olive oil. Now that I've had about 3 meals in 1 hour, these are just 3 ideas on how to use this kale puree. But if you have any more, I would love to see them. Share them with me on Instagram at xlacausemakefood. Thank you for tuning in. Okay. This is delicious.